Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Black Queer Unapologetic. I'm JoJo, and today we're going to close out this deep dive into relationships with the most important one of them all, the one you have with yourself. If you've been tuning in all February, you know that we've talked about everything from being single, dating apps, open relationships, relationship dynamics, and even hookup culture. But we've talked about what we expect from other people. We haven't talked about ourselves. We've only talked about what we're looking for in a partner and how we show up in romantic spaces. But today, I want to turn the lens inward because before you can truly love someone else, before you can really set those healthy expectations, before you can build something meaningful with another person, you have to love you. And I don't mean that on a surface level. It's more than Instagram quote love or that kind of thing. I really just mean deep, unshakable, unconditional love for yourself. The kind of love that doesn't fade when you're single, the kind of love that doesn't crumble when someone doesn't text you back, the kind of love that doesn't require external validation to feel whole. So let's talk about it. What does it really mean to fall in love with yourself, and why is it so important? Let's get into it.
Hey, black, queer, unapologetic. Black, queer, unapologetic. I know who I am, now you know what I'm about. I say the thoughts in my head out loud. Let's get into it, let's pick up the flow though. Brought to you by the one they call JoJo. Black, queer, unapologetic. Black, queer, unapologetic. Let's go.
All right, so let's get to the real question. What happens when you build your self-worth on external things? I know a lot about that because, I'm not a therapist or a dating coach or anything like that, but I have been single for a really long time. And I've gone through these stages of building my worth on external things. I talked about that a little bit in the episode about me getting fired. But really, we need to figure out like what happens when your sense of value is tied to whether or not someone swipes right on you, or whether or not your partner shows up the way you want them to, or whether or not your body looks a certain way or your career is taken off the way that you had planned. What happens when those things change? Because they will change. I mean, we grow and life changes all the time. You're going to get a new job. You're going to get a new partner. Your partner's going to maybe get a new job or lose their job or make more money than you. And if your self-love is conditional, it is only present when you're in a relationship, when you feel attractive, when you're making money or more money than somebody else. Your confidence or your joy and your peace will be unstable because it's attached to those external things. You're always on this roller coaster chasing the next thing to feel good or feel good enough or better than. And let me tell y'all, it's exhausting. You got to get off that roller coaster. But let's flip it. So when your self-worth comes from within, when you love yourself, not because what you have or who you're with, but simply because you are you become untouchable and you stop settling because you know that you don't have to beg for love or respect or attention or honesty. You already have love within yourself. You stop chasing validation and attention just because you don't need external approval to feel worthy or important. You start making better choices. You stop engaging in relationships that drain you. It doesn't matter whether those are romantic or platonic. You stop staying in situations just because they feel familiar. I think a lot of people fall into that one. I've been with this person X amount of time. Like, I've invested all this time, but if it's not working, it's not working. You start setting boundaries that protect your peace, and you cultivate real happiness. That kind of happiness that isn't tied to a relationship status or the number of likes you get on a picture or somebody viewing your story or anything like that. The kind of happiness that really is just yours, that's coming from inside yourself. But getting to that place, it takes a lot of work. And I think for me, as someone who's been single for a really long time, I put a lot of worth on my job and, trying to hustle, make more money and all of these things. and it wasn't a healthy thing. And I got a really big wake up call when I got fired from my job unexpectedly. And so I had put too much value on my job and in the importance and how much money I was making. And when that was taken away from me, I'm like, well, what do I have? I don't have a partner. I don't have this. I don't have that. And putting too much emphasis on the things that I don't have instead of the other things that I have as a person, not tied to my job, but truly like deep down within myself as a person. And if you can really get to the heart of that, of who you are, and love yourself unconditionally without any attachments to anything else, I think that that's going to take you a lot further. For me, I had to make sure that it was coming from a truly authentic place and not from a place of I'm better than you or being conceited or cocky or anything like that. And sometimes people, they will call you conceited or cocky just because they haven't found that internal self-love. So they're comparing themselves to you. Life is not a competition. And so one of the downsides of finding that love within yourself is that some people are not going to be able to receive it in a way that is healthy, and they see you as competition, as, you know, someone to compete with and find ways to pull you down. And so that's a whole nother conversation, but you have to figure out how do you maintain that self-love internally without any external factors being able to shake that from you and take it from you. Okay, so I know this whole self-love, learning to love yourself thing sounds good in theory, but let's be real. Some people don't really realize what it looks like when you're not actually truly loving yourself. And I want to talk about what that might look like, because I mean, I've been there. So again, these are all my opinions. It doesn't necessarily mean that these are the only things, or, you know, the specific things that you should be looking for, but these are some things that at least I've noticed about, you know, what does not loving yourself actually look like. So I kind of wrote down 5 things. The first one, which I feel like I've probably gotten a little bit too good at, but if you are uncomfortable being alone and you just jump from one situation to the next because the silence makes you feel uneasy, you might not love yourself that much. I'm really capable, maybe a little bit too capable, of sitting in silence and being by myself and spending a lot of time alone. I protect my alone time a lot, maybe a little bit too much, but I do feel that if someone is uncomfortable being by themselves and sitting in their own company and being in their own company, and they need to be around people all the time, and you jump from one activity to the next, or one situation to the next, and one person to the next, that might be a sign that you really don't have a strong sense of self-love for yourself. The second thing, your measure of your worth is externally validated. And so the example that I gave before was me being fired from my job. My job was what made me feel important and valued and loved, but that job fired my ass. So obviously that wasn't what I thought it was. If someone isn't checking for you, basically, or texting you back or showing interest, or you start questioning if you're enough, these are probably signs that that external validation is showing up, and you probably don't have enough love for yourself, and it's coming from some type of external source that you have no control over. Another one might be that you prioritize others over yourself always. And it's always good to be helpful and help people out, and you can prioritize your friends or your partner and things like that. But if you always put people first and you pour into everybody else, but when it's time to show up for yourself, your cup is empty and you can't show up for yourself, that is a problem. Why are you giving everybody everything and not giving yourself anything? Another sign, you accept the bare minimum, whether it's from a relationship, a job, friendships. You find yourself settling because deep down you don't believe you deserve more than what you're getting. And the last one, which I also struggle with this one, you don't speak kindly to yourself. You hype up your friends, but when it comes to you, the self-talk is harsh. You would never talk to any of your friends that way, but you talk to yourself that way. Why? So if any of these sound familiar, first of all, you're not alone. I feel like at least 3 things on this list I've struggled with and I still struggle with. We've all been there, whether you want to admit it or not. But recognizing this pattern is the first step towards changing it and finding that real love for yourself. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. So, okay, JoJo, self-love. All right, how do I love myself? Listen, the way that you make this actually work and move from knowing self-love is important and actually living it is first recognizing, okay, what am I doing that's allowing these external things to make me feel bad about myself? Why do those things make me feel bad about myself? And then find a way to get comfortable with yourself. Take yourself out on dates. I go out, for lunch by myself, go to dinner by yourself. It's not a bad thing. I don't even know why people feel like hanging out alone in public is a bad thing. I know we're social creatures and we spend time with a lot of people in our day-to-day lives, whether that's at work, whether it's going out with friends, whether it's with your partner. But when you learn how to spend time alone, when somebody's not around, you will be fine. And you learn how to be fine by yourself. Spend time alone on purpose, not just because you have no other plans. Learn what makes you happy outside of relationships. Find hobbies that make you feel good deep down, whether it's like painting, sports, hiking, writing, start a podcast, cooking. And then learn to speak to yourself with love. When we talked about that negative self-talk, pay attention to your self-talk. Would you talk to your best friend like that? No? Okay, well, then maybe you need to change the script. Replace the negative thoughts with affirmations instead of saying, I'm not enough, or questioning why this, why that. Try, I am whole as I am. I will figure this out. I'm going to be okay. Set boundaries that protect your peace. Say no to things that drain you. I've been on this whole year of yes thing, but sometimes you got to say yes to saying no. Distance yourself from people who don't respect you. That's a really big one for me. If you're going to play in my face, we going to have a problem. So I definitely distance myself from people who do not have any respect for me. And I make sure that I do set my boundaries. And if you don't respect them, then I'm sorry, but you got to go. And then make sure that you set time for rest and relaxation. I think sometimes we want to do too many things at once. You don't have to commit to every single thing that somebody asks you to do. Every night out, every dinner, every birthday, every trip, every single thing. If you're not feeling up to it, you can politely decline. It's okay. Celebrate yourself. Stop waiting for somebody else to clap for you. Be your own biggest cheerleader, which I have definitely learned how to advocate for myself in that way, because I feel like sometimes people don't understand the impact or the value of the celebratory moments that you have in your life. So make sure you acknowledge your own growth. Even if it's just a small win, that shit matters. It matters. It matters to you, so it matters. And we all fuck up, so this is probably the biggest one. But practice self-forgiveness. Let go of past mistakes. Holding on to guilt that doesn't serve you. Understand that healing is a journey. Some days will be easier than others, and that's okay. Some days will be harder than others. If you make a mistake, you don't have to live there. Learn from it, grow from it, and move on. This whole self-love thing is about learning to be a better you and learning to like and love yourself as you are. If you don't like yourself, if you don't love yourself and you can't get to that point, then maybe you got to change something. But you don't have to hold on to those past mistakes. And I've made a lot of past mistakes trying to figure out who I am and what I want, and going through stages of dragging people down to make myself feel good, knowing damn well that I didn't do anything but create a messy situation. Okay, so this is going to be a little story time because I feel like I need to elaborate on not loving yourself and creating messy situations to make you feel good about yourself, but the shit that you're doing doesn't mean anything. So, and take this for what it is. This is just me like reflecting on a past situation that I put myself in. But my first relationship, I was, I wouldn't say like it ended when I was like 19, 20 years old. And between the ages of 24 and 28, I was a hot ass mess, which, you know, that's hot. That's prime hot mess age. Like, you're still learning shit and like how to navigate adult life and all that stuff. I had money at the time, like where, you know, give a 24-year-old enough money to take care of themselves and pay their bills. And what are they going to do with it? Go travel and go to bars and drink and meet people and not make the best decisions. Anyway, during that period between 24 and 28, I was struggling with the idea of dating and hooking up. And I had been in the military, and so like getting out of the military, I'm like, okay, like how do you navigate just regular everyday gay life shit? And I found myself in a situation where I was not dating, I was just hooking up a lot. And then I found myself hooking up with other people's boyfriends and partners. And that gave me some sense of, oh, like I'm the shit. I'm, you know, oh, their relationship ain't shit. This and that. Essentially, I was a homewrecker for a good amount of years. And I was only doing that because I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't have a friend group. I didn't have people who really like valued me or had interest in me or, I don't know, just cared about me. I didn't feel that. And unfortunately, I found ways to unhealthily make myself feel good about myself at the cost of somebody else. And I had to learn that that was not okay. I did a lot of things with a lot of people's dudes, and you know, it comes back to bite you in the ass because it's just like, okay, well, then you get a reputation. And then you're complaining about, you know, nobody wants to date you or people don't like you or you don't have friends. I'm like, well, bitch, look what the fuck you're doing. So you have to really be aware of the things that you're doing. And if they're not healthy for you, if they're not serving you, then you need to make a change. And for me, that change was doing better and realizing the issues that I had with myself, the reasons why I didn't love myself, the reasons why I didn't like myself, and the reasons why I would go and do something like that behind people's backs and try to spin it as a good thing to myself. Like, oh, this is fine. Oh, you know, using that situation to make me feel good about myself because I'm not getting what I really want. And so I'm settling for this situation that means nothing and is doing nothing but hurting me and hurting them and hurting their partner. So I've had to learn from all of that. All of that's in the past now. But I think what I'm really trying to get at is that this journey towards doing better and learning to like and love yourself and falling in love with yourself looks different for everyone. So I want to bring people into this conversation because I don't think a lot of people realize that they don't actually like or love themselves. And that's a problem. Like how you gonna love somebody else if you can't love yourself? So I challenge you to think about a couple things. What's one thing you've done to deepen your self-love? How has loving yourself changed your life? If you want to have a conversation about it, DM me on the podcast page or on my personal Instagram page. Send me a message, voice memo, a text message, or even a comment on social media. I want people to feel supported through this journey because I know it's not easy. For me, learning to love myself meant learning to be alone without feeling lonely. It meant looking in the mirror and seeing value even when I wasn't dressed up or looking my best or that kind of thing. Even when I was having a bad day. It meant choosing myself even when it was hard. And trust me, when you get to that place, everything changes. All right, y'all, that's a wrap on today's episode. If you take anything away from this, just let it be that you are worthy, you are enough right now, not when you lose weight, not when you're in a relationship, not when you get your dream job, not when somebody else's man thinks you're attractive, and not because you're fucking somebody else's man or took somebody else's man. You are worthy and enough right now. And all that stuff on the back end, just make sure that you take care of yourself, that you're loving on yourself. And if you're doing some crazy shit like I was to make you feel good about yourself, if you want to change, you can do that at any time, but do it for yourself, not for somebody else. As always, remember, stay Black, stay queer, and if you're neither, always stay unapologetic. I'll catch you guys next time.